Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. At ForgeWorks, the whole team, we're really excited because what we're going to show you is the results of 2 years of development of a solution, a practical solution to help you improve the safety of work in your organization in ways that your organization is used to working with safety and working with making improvements. We've got the whole team on the call, our consulting team, our software engineering team, and their lowly leader, myself. So look, at ForgeWorks, we get asked 3 questions all the time by companies wanting to know, where are we at with safety? What can we do to improve the safety of the work? We're increasingly getting asked that question, which is a great question, the safety of the work. And the third is, how can we incorporate the latest evidence-based safety science that we're exploring into our organization, because it doesn't live in any of the tools that we've got today. The specific solution that we are going to discuss today has its origins more than 3 years ago. In discussions with some very close friends and colleagues, we're exploring safety 1 versus safety 2, compliance versus resilience, and these different ends, or what's being positioned as ends of a safety spectrum. And that these approaches seem worlds apart, but the real world, your real practical world, can't deal with those kind of dichotomies. Organizations don't move like that, they don't change like that, and they don't improve like that. So there must be an evolution, there must be a progression, there must be a way to practically bridge our current reality to the possible. And for the record, the possible in ForgeWorks and in the safety of work survey tool, it would say, is the safety science research. That's the possible. Now, before we go any further, by coming along today, you've actually joined a new organization called Acme, I think, inventive team, the DevOps team. So you've joined this new organization, and as an employee of Acme, you are now going to do the safety of work survey. Now, this survey takes between 4 and 10 minutes, but what better way to talk about a product and a tool than to actually experience the tool. So it's available in 12 languages. We're only giving it to you today in English. So let's understand the capacity of Acme to create the safety of work. Scan the QR code, click on your mobile device off the screen, click on the link if you want to go into a new window, and I'm going to be quiet for 4 or 5 minutes until we start seeing some of your results coming through the business. Select any division you want, select any worker type you want, and enjoy. Talk to Jerry's our web wrangler. And Jerry, you can boot off my screen, mate. Let's start seeing some of these results coming in. Okay, see what's going on here. People, senior leaders in Acme, asking workers to follow rules, but not, good approaches to risk and strategy. Oh no, looks like we got too far in front of ourselves with risk. Safety organizations doing safety work, good operational management. Management systems aren't too bad. Frontline leaders, leading indicators around monitoring and metrics. Look at these percentages now. We can see now where these percentages are. Oh, look at all these guiding factors, what workers believe it should be. Those first 5 elements of how we guide, how we set the direction in the organization for the safety of work. Look at that. Look how different that is to the experience that people are having inside Acme. I don't know, team. I don't know if you made me the CEO of Acme, but looks like I got some work to do. Okay. All right. What is going on here? This is the worker types. So we're looking at the individual workers in the office. We're looking at what they think. Really good to get the workers' perceptions on senior leaders and the senior leaders' perceptions of themselves and vice versa. So we can see what everyone in the organization is experiencing with these 15 factors. And we can see what everyone in the organization thinks things should be like. All right, we've got 23 responses piled in now. See that? It's only taken 3 or 4 minutes. Haven't heard any hurls of abuse for the AWS server going down. Okay, should be. Really important, have a strategy and an effective safety organization. So that's the workers in the office again. let's check out some different worker types maybe. So let's see what the managers think. Oh, look at the managers, what it should be. Wow, that's a busy circumflex, what it is. Geez, the people in ACME have an amazing ambition for their organization that's not entirely reflected in what they're experiencing at the moment. Well, you're the managers, you're the management team. What are you doing about that, I guess? Something to ask. Are we still getting them coming in? 31, yep, we're getting more coming in. Workers in the office. Okay. Let's look at those senior leaders, Jerry. Let's see what's going on there. A supervisor even, but yeah, senior leaders. Okay. Senior leaders, they've downrated themselves, and they only want to be a little bit better. But that's good. That's good. High expectations of the safety organisation. All right. We can see supervisors. Supervisors. Yeah, you know, they don't really need too much from senior managers, but geez, they need a lot of enablers and they really need their frontline, that communication, decision-making, and the frontline workforce. You can see your supervisors just really want that frontline leaders, communication and coordination and decision-making. Really critical for supervisors. I don't know if everyone's role-playing when they're selecting this stuff or they're playing their own role, but these are the real conversations that we have with organizations. You can see there we've got 42 responses now. Okay. So you finished that off. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk through the survey. So finish it off if you've got it. We'll close the link down in a minute or two. A few minutes later, it might end up booting you off. Looks like we've got 80 participants. Links in the chat, and I'm now going to share my screen. So thanks, Jerry, for that. Thanks, AWS. Thanks to all of you wonderful employees of ACME, and the contribution that you make in the organization and the desire that you have for the organization to be better than it is today. So let's go through the engine behind what you've just done. So let's talk about the methodology and what's under the bonnet. So the ForgeWorks map has three broad capacities: the capacity to guide, to enable, and to execute. There's 5 factors in each of these capacities, or 15 factors in total. And we look at 3 broad approaches, from compliant to leading to resilient. So let's talk about these for a moment. So in 1988, Ron Westrom actually talked about 3 different cultural archetypes of organizations: pathological, bureaucratic, and generative. Now, this is all we kind of knew at the time. This was like 2 years after Chernobyl, and safety culture was really being explored, and generative was the top of the tree. And then in the early 2000s, Patrick Hudson, he added an extra 2 layers, you know, maybe the popularity of Jim Reason's Swiss cheese model at the time, three layers wasn't enough. So we had 5, but the starting point, the middle point, and the end point was exactly what Ron Westrom had talked about. Now, this culture ladder created the Hearts and Minds survey tool, and many of you professionals will have done that. But our understanding of safety and work and complex systems moved really fast in the 2000s since this work. In 2009, David Boris published a paper titled The 5th Age of Safety, the Adaptive Age, that we come through this technology age, this behavior age, this management systems age, and this culture age, and we're now in an adaptive age. And so in here, he talked about going broadly from compliance to culture to resilience. And I think that is the journey and the evolution of these ideas. Now the challenge that we've got is that going from bureaucratic to generative, but to something else. The models that we've got actually don't deal with complexity science and even contemporary safety science, because the tops of those ladders and the way that the safety and work and the organization gets described is not enough. And in fact, it's probably tangentially not the right direction to manage safety and work in complex systems, knowing what we know now in 2021. So there's not a lot out there that can help describe what we need in our organizations to be able to manage. So how does this all come together? Well, when there's a global pandemic and you live in what is now infamously the most locked down city in the world, Melbourne, Australia. And just for the record, today is day number 257 of lockdown. So it's lockdown number 6, and it ain't over yet. Well, what you do is you work with your team and you decide what are some of the biggest challenges that we can work on in safety, and getting contemporary safety science into the hands of practitioners was what we thought was our biggest challenge. So when most of Australia was deep in lockdown, we published the ForgeWorks map. We called it a blueprint for improving the safety of work, because why not? Why not publish a 40-page blueprint document to help safety practitioners and organizations all over the world understand how to conceptualize and then operationalize some of these safety ideas. Then the phone started ringing. Wasn't really the phone, it was kind of Zoom or Teams or WebEx or Chime or whatever it is. And we started doing assessments. We did interviews, we did focus groups, we did assessments in different languages. We did assessments in South America, in North America, in Asia, in Australia, in Europe, in Africa, for organizations, from mining organizations to logistics, to oil and gas, to utilities, to aviation. We were heavily doing assessments. And the challenge comes is we go, well, how do we scale this? So much of this needs to be able to be scaled. And so then we get to where we are today. But this is the engine. This is the engine that powers the Safety of Work survey. 3 capacities: the capacity to guide, set a direction for safety in the organization and the integration of safety with work, enable that direction to be realized through resources and capabilities and capacities, and then to execute day in, day out when people are exposed to the hazards in their work. How can they make that work safe and effective? So this is the map. This is the map. This tells you where you are. This tells you where you can go. And really importantly, it tells you what it looks like with where you're going. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's really important in a minute. And so if you understand how your organization sort of is, and you don't think it's right, and the people in your organization believe that it should be enabled differently, then all you have to do is make that new reality your reality. So then companies got bigger. We knew we needed to reach more people. So we went to work about 12 months ago going, how can we have a survey tool? We didn't want to just make a survey tool. One of our ForgeWorks principles is that we are evidence-based. We weren't going to do anything that wasn't valid and wasn't reliable. So it's taken us 12 months, iteration after iteration, control groups, surveys, redesigning surveys, interviews, focus groups in the same organizations with independent consultants looking at surveys and doing interviews, rigorous trials, evaluations, but we've got there. We're really confident with what you've got just done, and we can show you. And the result is what you've completed today. So what does that result look like in a real organization? So we need to introduce the ForgeWorks Circumplex. Yes, we need whether it's spider diagrams or charts but this is no ordinary spider chart or sunburst diagram. This is drill down gold for your organization. This is not just saying, hey, you are calculative, or hey, you should be generative, and lumping your whole assessment up into one word or one box. This is 45 individual assessments with not only 45, it's 90 individual assessments. In every single one of those boxes, what parts and how your organization thinks that what it should be, and what parts of your organization thinks that's what it is. So it's drill down gold. You can configure it, and you can really understand what's going on in your business and what your people want the business to be like. So what gets reported here, these are the factors in the safety science literature that directly influence the safety of work in your organization. These things are the mediators between this conceptualization of culture and workplace activity. So let us look at not Acme, not what you've done, but let's look at the position. We start by understanding the position. So the 15 questions in that survey that said what it is, give us a position. So here's one that we prepared earlier. Let me talk you through. This is the conversation in 60 seconds that I would have with your organization. Okay, this company can be described as follows. Senior leaders talk about safety. It's their number one priority, and they have sort of safety plans in place to communicate and support that. But it's separate from their leadership of the organization. Their risk management process is about compliance. Do risk assessments because they have to do risk assessments. It's not used to inform decision-making, operational and strategic decision-making. The safety organization focuses on safety work. when a safety issue is raised, it's prioritized, it's fixed, but there's limited proactive investment in improving safety. Frontline leaders participate and lead safety activities. The management systems for safety are pretty much well avoided by anyone who can avoid them in the organization, and people pretty much go out of their way to avoid probably your electronic databases and your procedures and processes. The focus of training is on making sure people are compliant with their job role competencies, and limited learning, limited broader but non-technical training and organizational learning is happening in this business. When it comes to executing safety day in, day out, the organization sees the role of the frontline worker is to follow safety rules. There is two-way communication up and down the organization, but it's not open, it's not psychologically safe to disagree. Decisions are made decisions are made by the most senior person in the organization, not by deference to expertise, which is one of the 5 HRO principles. And that's just a good example about how we've incorporated all of the contemporary safety science theories, from HRO to resilience engineering to safety 2 and safety differently, and HOP, all that language and all of those ideas and the evidence base that sits underneath. Well, for those ideas where there is an evidence base that sits underneath them, have been incorporated here. And contractors are told what to do by the organization, and the organization thinks that it's safe when there are a low number of incidents. So that's the position of company X. But what's the details below this? So this is these percentages. This is the 45 assessments of the current state. This is where we can see how strong this position is. We can see where the tipping points are. We can see where the consolidation points are. We can see the points of consensus. We can see the points of disagreement. We can split this by different divisions, by different worker types in your organization. We can see what are going to be the enablers of change, and we can see what are going to be the barriers to change. We can see where we can experiment, and we can case study. We can really understand, and we can do the same with the should ambition that I will talk about later. So what can you conclude from this assessment? Well, then we go through, and there's 15 descriptions against the factors with the percentages, gives you a narrative to explain where your organization's at under these 15 things. Now, I'm just showing you the guiding factors. There'd be another slide that has in the report, which has the enabling factors, another one having the execute factors. And that's a way of describing, depending on the assessment and the strength of that assessment, how we can talk as an organization about where we're at and align behind that. And now, here you go. My gift to you, our gift to you from ForgeWorks. This is the $1 million opportunity. We promise that it doesn't cost that much. In fact, a couple of orders of magnitude less than that for you to do the safety of work survey. But here is your replacement for TRIFR and lost time injury rate. So more than 10 years ago, human resources moved from the negative statistic of turnover rate, how many people are resigning and leaving our business, to a positive measure of employee engagement. Work on employee engagement and people won't leave the company. Work on the capacities in the ForgeWorks map and you won't have incidents. You will improve the safety of work. So here you go. You get a score out of 100. You get scores for your capacities to guide, to enable, and to execute, and you get a score. So why not? Why not remove TRIFR and LTIs from your things and talk to your board and your CEO and your HR director? They'll understand this. They understand employee engagement. They understand scores and numbers, and have a target next year to improve your safety of work score by 10%. Set your leaders the responsibility to improve their guiding score. Set your safety department the opportunity to improve their score and their contribution to the safety of work in your organization. So this is the $1 million opportunity. This takes us beyond incident rates while acknowledging the practical realities of needing quantifiable metrics to attach to organizational targets. So there's a little bonus that we wanted to throw in there. Okay, the obvious question now is, which of these 15 factors should I work on first? So we need to create an ambition. This is where we want to go, and this is in what order we want to do things in our business. So we've given you lots of data, and this is how we do. There's 15 questions that your people have answered to do with what they think the organization should be doing. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what the organization will end up doing, but you have got the pulse of what your organization thinks good safety of work looks like. So again, going back, you'll know the change, you'll know that where the change resistance will show up. You'll know where your easy, quick wins will be, where everyone in your organization believes that it should be different to what it currently is. So you as leaders, you refine that ambition, and then you go after those improvements in your business. And we asked, there was a question 31, I don't know who did it at the bottom. It's what can the organization do to improve safety in your workplace? Very, very deliberately asked. And we capture all those quotes come in, all those verbatim comments. You get every single one of those verbatim comments. We theme them, we give you examples, and we relate them back to the 5 or the 4, usually 5 key opportunities for improvement. We say, well, here's what everyone said down the bottom. Here's the factors where the gap between reality and ambition, position and ambition is the greatest. And here's what you can do. And the good thing is then you pick up the blueprint, you know what the next position on the map looks like. You can design your strategy and your enablers to go there.